Hi, my name is Gabriel Geiger, and I'm an investigative journalist with Lighthouse Reports and one of the trainers of the Pulitzer Center's AI Spotlight series. This is going to be our module on AI terminology and how to detect BS. We're going to be covering in this module a taxonomy of AI BS. We're going to be talking about claims of AI accuracy, AI safety and doomerism narratives, and the anthropomorphization of AI, or comparisons between AI and human beings. Starting with AI accuracy, or claims around AI accuracy, oftentimes you'll see these buzzwords like error-free, 99% accurate, magic, projected huge savings, productivity was boosted by, X percentage. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what are some of the questions we can ask when we see these claims so we aren't irresponsibly reproducing them. An example here that I just found online from Googling AI 99% accurate, you'll get pages and pages of results. So, this insurance company that claims to use AI to identify insurance claims, fraudulent insurance claims, 99% accuracy. Another tool that claims to detect AI writing with 99% accuracy. It's important to ask, who came up with this number? The company itself? Was it a peer-reviewed study? Was it researchers who are contracted by the company or have some sort of financial incentive? And then you can ask, okay, what is the baseline that you're actually comparing against? If the previous method was 96% accurate, then maybe 97% isn't such a huge improvement. Then there's many different ways of actually measuring accuracy. Are we talking about false positive rates, false negative rates? There's something called precision. So we should ask them to get specific on what they actually mean by accurate. You can have something that's accurate overall, but where there's pretty big differences between groups in accuracy. So you can ask, does the accuracy differ across groups? Did you even test that? A facial recognition model might be 97% accurate for whiter skin tones and, only 60% accurate for darker skin tones, for example. Then how many people is the AI tool being applied against? So if you have something with 99% accuracy, but you're applying it against millions or tens of millions of people, then a 1% error rate actually means quite a few people are going to end up with problems, right? Then has the model actually been tested in the real world? Oftentimes these companies that are producing these statistics have only tested their model on internal testing data that might be old or might not really look like real world people that the model is going to be deployed on. And so, time and time again, you see a model that has high accuracy in testing and then gets deployed in the real world and the accuracy drops. Also, accuracy claims often have some pretty revealing fine print. One of my favorite examples is from ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter is a company in the US. It's an AI software that listens. It's like mini microphones sort of set up across the city, and it listens for gunshots and claims to be able to detect gunfire. And ShotSpotter, claims that it has a 97% accuracy rate at detecting gunshots. Paid a consultant to audit that number. What was really revealing is that this audit showed that ShotSpotter just assumes that all alerts are gunshots unless an actual police officer takes the time to file a complaint with the company about a specific error. So these claims of accuracy are actually just a tally of customer complaints. Obviously, this is not a very scientific way of coming up with that number. Bringing this back to LLMs and the generative AI industry, oftentimes you'll see attempts to launder or downplay the rate of hallucinations that chatbots have, right? Making up stuff that's not there. And reporting has shown time and time again examples of that happening as well. To the next sort of bucket of PR speak that we have is comparisons between AI and human beings. So this would be things like talking about AI as sentient, as rational, as objective, as AI understanding human emotions, as outperforming humans, are all sorts of PR speak that you'll see in this sort of bucket. And that sort of goes hand in hand with oftentimes visually anthropomorphizing AI. That's unfortunately something we see a lot of in our own journalism community. So header images that depict AI as like some sort of human object. A really good example, must-read sort of look at this is a newsletter from Sayesh Kapoor and Arvind Narayanan called AI Snake Oil. They have this really good blog post about 18 pitfalls to be aware of in AI journalism. And, just a small selection would be, attributing agency to AI. So describing AI systems taking actions independent of human supervision, Again, humanoid robots or other suggestive imagery. Comparison with human intelligence. So you oftentimes see comparisons to AI described as sentient or that it has PhD level intelligence. And sort of comparison more generally with human skills, and really hiding this or obscuring this fact that AI oftentimes works in a really narrow range of settings or types of tasks. And it's important to say that catching these tropes and not reproducing them, catching them in government or company PR is really important, and also not reproducing them in our own reporting is quite important. And that's because many companies sort of hype their AI products by anthropomorphizing them, right? By making them seem superhuman or human as part of the PR pitch. And that sort of leads to this flawed assumption that AI can feel and think, or that AI is innately more objective or innately more rational than a human being is. The sort of last bucket here relates to AI safety. Buzzwords that you'll hear here are oftentimes like responsible AI, the sort of existential threat, red-teamed AI, value-aligned, interpretable, friendly, are all sort of buzzwords that you oftentimes see in these sorts of PR pitches. So just to define some of these terms, because you'll hear them a lot. So value-aligned AI is the idea of encoding, quote-unquote, human values into an AI model. This is usually used in the context of LLMs. So value aligning would be, trying to correct AI and LLM's answers so it doesn't, reproduce racist tropes in those answers. And then there's this sort of field, I would say, is what you'd call it, which calls itself AI safety. And the idea of there is sort of value aligning AI to supposedly protect humanity from the superhuman and existential threat of AI. I put an asterisk here because AI safety is sometimes used to more generally describe attempts to rein in societal harms from AI. It's a little bit of a fuzzy word. Maybe you've been sort of reading or heard about AI doomerism. And AI doomerism is basically a sort of ideology or perspective promoted by some big figures in Silicon Valley like Elon Musk, that AI poses this existential threat to humanity, that it's going to take over the world and has the potential to sort of destroy humanity. AI doomerism oftentimes distracts from the sort of current, concrete, present tense harms related to AI deployments. This is a sort of ideology of, this AI doomerism ideology is something that is sort of reproduced quite consistently in Silicon Valley. One of the other sort of fields that you hear about is AI ethics. So you oftentimes hear AI safety and AI ethics. And just to sort of differentiate these a little bit more, AI safety is an ideology, a field that's much closer to Silicon Valley, oftentimes positions AI as this existential, superhuman threat, and that the solution there is technical. AI ethics tends to be closer to the sort of academic world, to the sort of multinational institutions like the World Bank or OSID, a little bit closer to the government sphere as well. That's oftentimes a bit more focused on present tense AI harms, oftentimes discusses solutions in a bit more of a socio-technical lens, so not just about technology, but about the context of how these systems are deployed. And sort of within this realm is this growing field of AI auditing. And so more and more you'll see AI auditing firms, you'll see companies or governments auditing their own AI systems. And AI auditing can be an important accountability tool, but like the claims that we discussed earlier around accuracy, we do have to have some healthy skepticism. So governments or companies can claim that their product has been audited for bias, but we shouldn't take those claims a priori be true. We have to sort of ask these same questions, like who's done the auditing? Is it an internal auditor, an external auditor? Are the auditors being paid? Is really important especially because this is a sort of growing trend. Just an example here, Deloitte, which is a big consultancy, back in 2013 built a machine learning model to detect fraud in the Netherlands. And that ended up being at the center of a scandal which saw thousands of families in the Netherlands wrongly accused of fraud and the fall of the government over that. And then the scandal was in 2019. And then now, more recently, Deloitte is doing ethical AI auditing in the Netherlands. So some of the same companies that built some of the most problematic models are now offering ethical AI auditing services. So those are our main buckets for PR AI hype. Just to sort of recap, it's important that you don't take company claims at face value. You should be asking for specific evidence. Focus on concrete present tense harms rather than these distracting existential doomerism. And, most importantly, don't just speak to the company, speak to experts and critics who are independently funded. So now we're going to do a little bit of an activity. And to do that, we're going to pick apart a PR pitch, two different PR pitches. So for our first pitch, we're going to look at a startup that's developed AI software that reads chest x-rays and claims to be 99% accurate. The startup CEO says that after running a trial at a hospital, the software demonstrated that it will save lives and cut costs because nurses will be able to detect lung cancer or other problems with the same proficiency as expert doctors. Your job here is to think back to our framework that we've been talking about, this sort of AI lifecycle framework that we've been talking about. So data, compute, model, and application. And to think about questions along that framework that you would ask to this company if you receive this pitch. So pause the video, write down some questions you'd ask, and then on the next slide, we're going to show you what we thought of. So let's go through this. On the data column, we could ask questions like, what was the data that this algorithm was trained on? Where did that data come from? Did the people consent? What were the demographics? Did it have more male patients than female patients, for example? Then on compute, how much did it cost to develop the software? Where is the patient data being uploaded? What happens once it's uploaded in the system? Models, what exactly did the algorithm inside the system do? Who says it's 99% accurate? Was the system tested and similar to real-world conditions? And then application, what monitoring is in place to detect errors? How does the system save money? For whom? How's that been proven? How do the nurses and doctors interacting with the system feel about it? Can patients opt out? How much does it cost? Or are important questions. Okay, over to our second pitch. So this time it's a city government that plans to use AI to evaluate applications for low-income housing. The government says the system will automatically accept those that are legitimate and flag those that are fraudulent for investigation. This will completely remove any bias from the process. So again, pause here, going back to our AI lifecycle framework, think through what questions you would ask, mapping them onto our 4 different columns: data, compute, model, application. Okay, starting with data. Again, pretty similar questions here. What data was the model trained on? Where did it come from? Compute, how was the system trained? Is it being trained by a private company? Do they have access to the data there? How often is it going to be updated? What kind of algorithm they're using? Has it been audited for bias? How reliable? And then applications, what tasks is the model performing versus what humans are doing? And sort of most importantly, do you actually really need an AI for this? Is there an alternative that would be cheaper, more transparent, or more reliable? So that's been this module. We put some resources here on the slide if you want to dive further into this. Really recommend AI Snake Oil. It's an excellent Substack newsletter that dives deep onto how we can report better on AI and how sort of cutting through some of the PR hype that you'll see within the industry. So really recommend that along with some of these other links here. Thank you very much.